Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I am here today with Bri Marquez, one of our long-term members, a global model. She travels all over the world, working for all kinds of fashion labels as a model. I'm also here with Laura Hood, my operations manager, who now lives in Austin, Texas. She's tuning in from Austin, Texas. Bri, you're in LA right now, Bri?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're both very busy people. You both have obviously very different lives, but are no less busy than each other, I'm sure. So today's topic, we have so much to cover today. I want to get like a snapshot into these two women's lives. Both have been involved in fitness for a really long time. I see them both as kind of pioneers of women in CrossFit, women in fitness. You know, that really exploded kind of around 2008, 2009, 2010, and thereon. I've known them both for a few years now, and they've both been very inspirational to Pharos Athletic Club in the terms of, you know, how they train, how they deal with the management of their lives, and including a lot of physicality in their busy lives. And I know a lot of people look up to them in the gym. So I really want to get a snapshot into their lives, kind of the challenges that they've had with both fitness and nutrition, how they've kind of dealt with the preconceived ideas of what women should, how women should behave in fitness, what women should look like in fitness, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the industry has changed a lot in the last 10, 20 years, but there's still so much misinformation out there. And I want to kind of delve deep into that because I know both of these girls have dealt with a lot of those issues, and it's going to be super interesting and super helpful, I think, to really get their perspective on things. Laura, let's start with you. I know you have a couple of kids already, and I believe maybe one more on the way. I can only imagine. I mean, obviously, we have one child here, and that's a handful at the best of times. So I can only imagine how busy your days must be, and then add the stresses and the workload that I enforce upon you on a daily basis, being the operations manager of Pharos Athletic Club, and you know, being a wife and being a mother, and adding all these things together, and then still fitting in, you know, fitness and all that kind of stuff. What does a day in the life of Laura Hood look like?
Oh, it is busy. Yeah, I mean, we get up bright and early when our kids wake up. We have a 2.5-year-old, almost 3-year-old, and a 14-month-old, and we are newly pregnant with our third. So it's only going to get crazier from here. Um, but yeah, we get up bright and early with the kids. We found a really wonderful daycare a couple months ago, and we're really grateful to have that in our lives. That's added just a layer of help
Yeah,
that we
sure.
didn't have for the last year. And I think a lot of families, especially with really young kids who didn't have the opportunity to go to childcare during the pandemic, struggled, you know, especially if both parents are working. And it's just been a really challenging year to balance all of that. But and certainly my time for fitness took a hit, which is difficult. I mean, I've been in the fitness world, both professionally, but also, you know, as like my hobby and my passion for many years. So to go through a more extended period without being able to like work out regularly was challenging. I mean, you know, we made time whenever we could, but yeah, so my kids go to daycare now. I work from home. I work from Austin, and the business I work for, of course, is Pharos, which is located in Los Angeles. So I work remotely, which gives me a little bit more flexibility. I don't know that my life would be possible right now, given the situation with the pandemic, if I had to go in like a 9 to 5
Right, sure.
situation. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I work. I do take a break at 12:30 every day. I go to a CrossFit class. My husband and I just newly joined a CrossFit gym here, which is the first time I'm doing CrossFit. You know, I've been at Pharos obviously for the last 4 years, so
Yeah.
my first time in a long time, which has been really fun. I mean, you forget. I think a lot of people took a break during the pandemic from going into the gym, even if they did find ways to stay active. You forget how important that community component of
Sure.
seeing the same people every day and like really loving your coaches, and just how much that adds to your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And we'll talk about that a little bit more
Right.
later on. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is such a huge part of it. And I think it really highlighted, during the pandemic, obviously we provided at home workouts. A lot of people bought equipment, all that kind of stuff to train at home. But I think everybody realizes after a while, like, it doesn't matter what equipment you have. It doesn't matter what you buy. You need people, you need community, you need to be around that energy to really get results. It's just so hard to motivate yourself to the same level, on your own at home.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right, Laura. It's interesting because, being a family now, and having a mother and a father that both work equally hard, equal hours, all that kind of stuff, it can be really hard to juggle, the kids and giving them the attention that you want to give them while still trying to hold down a job and trying to juggle everything else. It's a real challenge. So yeah, we haven't quite managed the daycare thing yet, but I'm hoping we can
You'll
sort that
get
out soon.
Yeah.
Brie, how about you? I mean, I'm sure your days vary massively depending on where you are in the world and what your job is at the time. But how do you kind of like, do you have like a routine every day, or is every day different for you?
So pretty much every day is different. I don't have a routine. Like you said, it kind of depends on if I'm in Los Angeles or if I'm traveling. Um, and then there's like travel days that could take all day to get somewhere or stuff like that. But my days do vary depending on kind of where I am.
Do you find that hard? I mean, for me, I'm very much routine based. Like, once I get out of my routine, I find it really hard to like keep things consistent. Do you struggle with that, or are you just adapted and you're really good at it now?
No, I struggle. I think people in general, like, we like routine, like we like to kind of like be able to plan things. I don't know very many people that are like, oh, I don't care, I'll just like do whatever, whenever. Um, but I definitely do struggle. There have been times where I like in the past couple of years where I've traveled kind of like nonstop. That gets like very taxing, like emotionally, physically.
Sure.
Um, just it does weigh on you, like not sleeping, like the whole thing. Um,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because to so many people, like, oh, I travel the world as a model. Everyone will be like, oh my God, that sounds like the best gig in the world. But,
uh-huh.
people don't realize that comes with a lot of challenge. It comes with
Yeah,
a lot of, it's tiring. It's hard
it's
work.
honestly like the biggest blessing. Like I love what I do. Like I love like meeting new people all the time. Like I get to go to really cool places. Um, like before modeling, I was like super shy, and like
Right.
now
Right.
I'm very much like come into. I have like my moments. I
Yeah.
definitely like fall back, but um, definitely helped me like develop as a person. But like at the same time, it is a lot of work, and that you do make a lot of sacrifices that you kind of like wouldn't think that would be a part of it, but they are.
Yeah.
Um,
When you travel, what do you do about gyms and stuff? Do you train in hotel gyms? Do you try and find a local CrossFit gym? What do you do?
so depending on how long I am in a place, because sometimes I will fly in, be there for like fly in the afternoon, stay overnight, work all day, then leave right after set to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
Kind of like you, unless you're staying somewhere multiple days, because then you can kind of set up a routine. Like there have been times where I'll take like a class or a drop in somewhere, depending on how many days I can, so I can kind of plan for that. But if I'm just going in for like 2 days or like overnight, I usually will work out. Well, during the pandemic, I was still working, like, but only to like San Francisco, like really close places. And like they're very safe. Like we get tested every time we shoot and everything. Um, but I would have to do like body weight movements like in my hotel.
Yeah.
So it would be like I am I feel like I know a lot about like fitness, but there's still stuff that I really have no idea about. Like working out without equipment. I have no idea like how to like set up a workout sometimes. So like I would like YouTube or like look at some people that I really like on Instagram that do like only body weight stuff. And
Yeah.
I'll just copy their programming in my hotel. Um
What's your, and Laura, you can answer this too. What's your limit on how many days you can go without fitness before you go nuts? Mine's 3. Like if I go longer than 3 days without doing any fitness, I am not pleasant to be around.
That's interesting because I have gone quite a bit without working out before. Like if I'm in like a nonstop, like, or like I'm really tired, it's almost like I don't want to work out. So it's like if
Right.
I'm working out, it's because I'm feeling good. But if I'm not working out, it's because like something's wrong or like I'm tired or something. So it's almost like the opposite for me.
Mm. Do you find the longer you go out, the harder it is to get back in?
Yeah, I do. I think there's like you get like, I don't know if it's like I'm anticipating like, oh, I'm gonna be so sore, oh, I'm gonna be so tired.
Right.
But like once you start, it's fine. It's just like
Getting in the door. Yeah. Laura, what about you? What's your limit?
I mean, I think before I got pregnant the first time, I would have said the same thing, 2 or 3 days, and I'd go
Right.
crazy. But, going through pregnancy and postpartum, like there are periods where you just can't, or if you can work out, it's a walk, like you just have to adapt to different life circumstances um and just like general busyness of having kids or career, whatever it is. Like there are just certain phases of life where you're not able to as much as you would like to. And I think it's healthy when you're in a phase of life like that to not go crazy if you're not able to work out and like accept that
Yeah.
that's your phase.
Exactly.
And as soon as I have an opportunity, I will again.
And to realize that there are more important things than fitness.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things you kind of learn as you grow up. It's like it's not that important. I mean, it is important to stay healthy, but like you miss a workout, the sky's not going to fall.
Okay.
right.
So let's talk about how you both found fitness. I know you've both been friends for a long time, and I'm not sure whether you came into CrossFit at the same time or how that happened. Or so just let's talk about that. Who was at CrossFit first, Laura or
Laura.
Was.
Laura? Okay, so
Yeah.
Laura, let's start with you. How did your introduction to CrossFit start?
I dated a CrossFitter in college, and he was like regionals, like competitor CrossFitter. And I had danced my whole life. Like I was certainly active, but I don't even think I had heard the word barbell before. Like I had no idea about CrossFit. And I started watching him and supporting him. He started like a little CrossFit club, and I joined just to be supportive. And I liked it, but I didn't really get hooked until I graduated. I moved back home to LA, and just needed a hobby, needed a new community, needed to meet some people, and joined a CrossFit gym. And just the rest is history from there. I started doing administrative work for them pretty quickly because I needed a job. And then I got my certification to start coaching and just like totally fell in love with it.
And got really good at it, right? You were really good.
I wouldn't say I was really good. I was good. I could like keep up with the average like good CrossFitter, but I was never like particularly strong or but yeah, I was okay. And I mean, I was definitely training like multiple hours a day and like really in it for a little while.
What about it you think like held your attention and that made you want to go in, as opposed to like any kind of gym experience before you were like, meh?
Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, the community aspect of like seeing the same people every day, and like being excited about that friendly competition. I think like CrossFit certainly has its downsides and its flaws, but one of like the big motivating factors for a lot of people, and me included, even though I don't generally think of myself as super competitive, is the like just fun nature in a gym of like knowing the little like group of girls that you're sort of on par with, and like day-to-day little mini competitions where like you're all motivating each other to be better, that and like seeing each other improve together and like getting your first muscle up and little things like that. Like that was addictive to me. Like I loved that.
Yeah, I love that. Brie, how about you? How did did it come through Laura, or was it?
No. Oh, I have such a weird background with fitness. So I've never been athletic. I've never really worked out. I've never done anything. Like I literally used to stay home from school when we had stuff to do in PE in high school and middle school. Um, I come from a family of 4. all my brothers, I have all brothers, they're all athletes. And I am not, I was like the chubby sibling, you know? Um, Basically, how I started was I became like very unhealthy with like my relationship to food, my relationship to my body. Um, and I essentially like started to not do things. Like I wouldn't like go out or see my friends, or I wouldn't like experience life because I just like didn't feel good about myself.
Mm.
And I honestly don't know how I was introduced to like what CrossFit was, but there was like a point where I was like researching a lot of like, because I definitely would like try gyms and then just like not go or something like that. Um, where I researched a ton of CrossFit gyms and I just thought it like looked interesting. And for some reason, the one that I went to first was CrossFit Hollywood, and there was like something about it. I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go in someday.
Right, right.
You know, like just
Yeah.
like I was like so shy and so like I like didn't know anything about like fitness. And when I started CrossFit Hollywood, I was like 300 pounds. Um, and like I went in, I did an intro. I kind of like told myself like I was gonna stick to something and like do it. Like I was just gonna do it. Like it didn't matter. I was gonna do it. And then like Laura said, like there is like a great community. Like some of my best friends, like Laura's one of my best friends. Like I've met like amazing people. Um, and I feel like they them with like my own like determination, like once I started, I was like, oh, like this is fun, like I can do this. Like I had crazy modifications when I started. Like I couldn't squat, I couldn't run, I couldn't do a lot of things. But like they worked with me and like found I kind of like found my place, and then I found out I was strong. So
Yeah.
then I started like training for that, and it was like little by little I was kind of trying to better myself. Like I was like, oh, like I can do this. Like let me see if I can do this next thing. Um and
Yeah,
that
I think that's another great thing about like CrossFit and any kind of gym that offers like mixed modalities is often you kind of find your little niche, like what you really like, and you can find something that you're kind of good at or that you find real kind of like enjoyment in. And I know kind of weightlifting, you kind of like took a shine to, right? Sort of Olympic weightlifting and that kind of thing.
like at first I started off with powerlifting.
Yeah,
Started off with powerlifting, which I thought was like really fun. And then I think the technical part of weightlifting is what like drew me in, is like how like just like little tweaks can like really change the lifts, like stuff like that. I like loved it.
yeah, yeah. It's very graceful, very artistic, very very precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So weightlifting and like strength stuff became like my thing. I'm not a runner. I don't run.
And
Although
Bree did a competition like early on. I'm sure we'll come back to this and I'll let her obviously talk about it more. But I just remember like it was pretty early on in your career at CrossFit Hollywood. And the whole gym was just like so freaking proud of you. And we all drove to this competition. I think we were already friends at this point, but like I was just like, everybody was so, from my perspective, I mean, you can talk more to this, but like so supportive and just like in awe of you and everything that you had accomplished by that point.
oh,
And that was years ago.
it was years ago. It was such a crazy time. Yeah, that was a little, just slightly over a year of me doing CrossFit, and at that point I had lost like 120 pounds.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, it was crazy.
It's also funny to me how many CrossFitters hate running. It's so common. They love CrossFit, but they hate running. So
I just I'm like, it's just not for me. I feel like
yeah,
that
for sure.
I'm like, oh, I'm heavy. This isn't for me.
We also just like don't do it that much. Like I feel like
Right.
it's a stereotype that we don't like it. So then we don't do it. And then you actually don't like it because you're not good at it because you never do it. So it's like self-fulfilling prophecy situation.
Yeah. It's funny because I put it as the summer approaches and kind of summer draws on, like I put more and more running in the program. So I want people to get outside and get vitamin D and that kind of stuff. And the amount of complaints and moans and groans we get about it. Oh, running. Oh.
So boring.
Okay. But it's kind of scary running around on the streets around LA because
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
think about my body because like if I break my leg, I'm not working,
Right. There's that. That's a true thing. Yeah. That's an important point, especially for someone like you. So you both found CrossFit. You both found a love for sport and training and going to the gym, and you found like a consistency with it. And obviously that's changed somewhat as you've, as your professional careers have taken off, and you have less time to dedicate. And then Laura, I know you already kind of mentioned, it had to take a back seat. And Brie, I'm sure there are times when you can't, you just simply can't train just because of the nature of your job or where you are in the world. How have you managed that situation kind of mentally? Like, is it just like a shift in priorities and just thinking like it's okay to not work out, or do you feel yourself being constantly frustrated with the fact that you can't do what you used to be able to do?
I feel like for me, I'll let Laura, you go.
Okay.
I thought, I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, something that Brie and I have bonded over, and like one of the reasons why we're as close as we are, is we both had a very challenging relationship with fitness, and particularly like body image and eating issues and things like that. And I think that when you go through something like that and literally your health is on the line and you have to let fitness take a back seat to like
No.
getting back to, I mean, your health, your mental health, certainly, like it becomes less of a, you just have a reframe from like more is better and more is healthier to like, okay, no, more is not better, more is not healthier in my situation and a lot of people's situations, in my opinion, I think, in the fitness industry. And like really reprioritizing why you're doing fitness and why you feel like you need to do it every day. And when you go through something, like for me personally, like an eating disorder, you literally have to like reckon with that or I mean,
Yeah.
it gets bad. So
I mean, that's an interesting point, Laura. So you both found fitness and then you liked it so much that you kind of got addicted to it to the point where it became an unhealthy addiction, both to fitness and with the nutrition that went along with it. Is that right in saying that?
yeah, I think, I mean, I think a lot of people struggle like kind of on the cusp of over exercising, under eating, like maybe some like body image issues. And I wouldn't qualify that as like an eating disorder necessarily, but I do think there's a lot of unhealthy behavior in the fitness industry. And in some cases, in my case, it can spiral and like go to a really not good place. And I I don't think that it's necessarily that like I just got addicted to CrossFit or something that did that. Like there's a lot of layers to that, like I think back to the first few years, and like back then we were doing like paleo challenges. Like once every few months it would literally be like, here's your body fat percentage at the beginning and here's the end, and like you literally get a monetary prize if you get as small as possible, regardless of like if you're already underweight or whatever the health consequences of that are. Like there was just not a lot of conversation around that, especially with women. So I think it just like a lot of different components of that, plus being in LA, I think adds a layer of like pressure to be a certain way. I mean, people are beautiful and thin there, and obviously not everybody, but there's just like a different cultural pressure as well being there, and emphasis on aesthetics too. So yeah, it certainly can spiral.
Yeah, I think it's interesting where it comes from. Where does that pressure come from to that you feel like you need to be smaller or you need to be thinner, or because it's not something, it's not a parent telling you to do it. It's not your friends telling you need to be. It's coming from somewhere. And I know a lot of it, like over the years, has definitely come from like Hollywood and like the general the poster people that you see, you know, in advertising, like this person, this is the way that you should look, this is the way that you should look. And I think that is changing a little bit. I know, just know in my experience in Hollywood, people like to say that they believe in like strong women and that they believe in like different body types, but when push comes to shove, the people that they choose to put up on a pedestal are often still the same stereotype they said they were trying to like get away from. So, you know, it's something I think we all, like as an industry, as a fitness industry, we have to keep working on and keep challenging those stereotypes. Do you still both feel now that same pressure and you just deal with it better, or do you think that pressure is less than it was? Or, you know, what do you guys think about the way that the industry is now and the way that women in general are perceived, in terms of like what they should look like and how they should behave in fitness?
Well, the like image of what fitness is, like it it has slightly changed, but it hasn't actually changed. Like example for me and like what I do, when I started modeling, that was like that was around the first couple rounds that you were actually seeing like bigger women other than like stereotypical like fitness women who are thin, muscular, or just like thin in general, on athletic campaigns.
Mm.
So when I started though,
You've done a bunch of them, right, Brie?
I have now, but that doesn't mean that I had like that I didn't like feel certain things when I was on set, or
Right.
like feel things, or I didn't like, there were times when these actual campaigns came out with like big brands and all I got was a bunch of messages about how I'm promoting obesity and
Oh
how
my God.
having me in the campaign is like unhealthy and women shouldn't like aspire to look like me, or that I couldn't run down the street. I mean, I don't know, like I've had
When you say messages, like Instagram messages, or?
I would get messages on Instagram. People would be
Oh
commenting on like the brands, the actual brands on their actual posts. There would be hundreds of comments about how like I'm unhealthy. I can't run down the street. I've probably never worked out a day in my life. And this is me when right around when I was still competing, when I was right around when I was still like, I mean, I still work out every day and everything, but I don't train 2 hours a day anymore.
yeah.
You know, I'm not like macro. I mean, I can be macro conscious now, depending on if I'm traveling, like I have to be, but like I'm not like tracking my macros, stuff like that. But like back then, to hear that and to see that was very like triggering.
Yeah, for sure.
Like my background and everything, like Laura said.
Yeah. How have you found ways to deal with that? Like, obviously, it's incredible that you have the strength to deal with all that, because that's the worst thing about Instagram. People just say whatever the fuck they like and have no consequence about it. But, you know, what ways have you found to deal with that kind of abuse? I mean, it's abuse, that kind of abuse.
I feel like when you have to be very, I feel like a lot of people that are in front of people in general have to really just like dig their feet into like who they are, like, and what people say about them does not matter. So like these people could say that I can't lift all I want, or I can't like do this, or I can't do that, but like they know nothing about me. They never will. They're sitting behind like their phones or their computers, are probably not happy with their own lives. Like you just have to, I try to just like take everything like that with like a grain of salt, because like I know what I can do. Like I have friends and family that love me, that like know what I can do, and like what other people perceive of me is not something that I need to take on. And like that's also something like as women in general, like different body types in fitness, we also are trying to like really I guess like embrace is like you do not have to take on what other people are putting down,
Sure.
that you are, what you should look like, or you know,
Yeah.
like how you, I don't know, just like how you should be, is that you don't need to be any of those things. So like them telling me that I'm not athletic and I'm not this and I'm promoting obesity, that's like all for them. That's
Right.
like nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I think I'm sure Laura would agree. Like, it's one of the hardest things as a parent to know that like our kids are going to go into a world where they're growing up with that kind of stuff from a very young age, that anybody could make any comment about them or say horrible things about them. And it really is just like trying to drum home that this is not a real thing. These are not real people. This is just like more about them than it is about you. And it's just, you know, it's such a scary and dangerous, you know, thing about social media, you know, that side of it. And it is really, you know, as a parent, one of the most fearful things about raising a kid in this generation is like that side of it, like what people can say about your son or your daughter, or you know, or you as a parent, or how you're parenting. You know, I've seen a bunch of stuff where people like comment on the way that you're raising your kids. It's like, I don't know why people think they have the right to like comment on this stuff, but you know, it's a really bizarre and strange time, and you know, hats off to you for dealing with it, Brie, because I can only imagine how, you know, how tough that must be. And the fact that you've dealt with it also well, and you're still, you know, being successful and being yourself and doing everything is incredible. But yeah, it really is a minefield, the whole social media side of things. Laura, coming back to you, you know, obviously Bree's just highlighting some major kind of like stereotypes she's dealt with, and some comments and all that kind of stuff. Have you dealt with much of that stuff? Or, you know, I know that the nutritional side of things at times has been challenging for you. Is it things people have said to you? Have there been comments? Or is it kind of like you on you kind of like pressure?
I do think it's what people have said to me, although I certainly have never been like bullied like that in any way. Like, I've not experienced what Brie has gone through, but I think kind of like from the opposite side of it, like as a thinner person, just naturally, like, you know, I had a little bit of extra weight on me, not very much, after college. And when I started CrossFit, that started to come off. And not even intentionally at first. Like, I don't think I had any sort of like inclination towards eating disorder behaviors before I started in the fitness world. And like, that wasn't my goal when I joined, but it happened naturally. And you don't even realize how common it is in our culture to comment on women getting smaller as like a compliment. Like, it's just so natural. Like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long. You look great. Did you lose weight? Like, you must be like, it's just, and people mean it kindly. People mean it as a genuine compliment. But when you hear that repeatedly over and over, especially when you're going through a phase of weight loss, like for me, it was the first time in my life that I had ever lost weight. Like, I'd never thought about it before, you know? And it just like, at some point you start to correlate that with people like me when I lose weight. Like, I get compliments, I'm popular, you know, I'm a better coach. Like, of course I'm not a freaking better coach, you know? Right. But like, it just really starts to get conflated in your mind of like, where does me and my value versus like my body size, where is the separation? Yeah. And I think that's what did it for me. And I was aware of that at the time as I was like going downhill. And then as I started to recover, like after my low point, I started to get help. I started to gain weight, which I needed to do. And I felt good inside about my decision to gain weight at that point. But I noticed no compliments. No one was like, oh, you look healthier, you know, no comments. Not that anyone insulted me or bullied me at all. Like, none of that. But
they were validating you more when you were smaller.
Yeah. And then, of course, I didn't know what was going on. Like, no one was being malicious, but yeah, it's just like so natural in our society to be like, oh my God, you look so good, you're smaller. And you know, a lot of people who are getting smaller are not healthy.
Right.
And not just for eating disorders. I mean, people lose weight because of all sorts of illnesses and stress and you know.
There's a big difference. It's like we always say, the club, that there's a big difference between being metabolically healthy and being thin. Like, we know from the, you know, from the in-body readings and stuff like that, just because someone's small doesn't mean they're healthy. Like, when you look at their actual, you know, body composition and their lack of any kind of lean body muscle mass, you know, from that perspective, they're not in great shape metabolically. But, you know, the perception from the outside is, oh, they're thin and they're small, so they must be healthy. And it's, you know, it's definitely a misconception, and something we need to keep you know, something we need to keep challenging and keep forcing. And the problem is, you think you're getting so far in this kind of like shift, and then you read something in a magazine. It's like, how are we still here? I know one of our trainers, Ruby, she highlighted this comment by, I think it was Charlize Theron's trainer or someone like that. And it was just saying, women should bench this in this manner with a close grip bench press because it will stop them getting wide and bulky, and so they don't look too masculine, and this kind of stuff. It's like stuff that like 10 years ago, I was saying, like, we have to stop this narrative. Like, we have to change this, but it's still happened. People are still guilty of it. And it's still like, that's another Hollywood example. It's like, it's still like Hollywood pushing that narrative of like what a woman should look like. And not only is it a false thing anyway, that's a ridiculous like exercise thing to claim, but it's also saying, well, women shouldn't look like this, they should look like that. And it goes on and on and on. And I don't know, it's hard to know like where it starts, where it comes from, because it's just been going on, for so long. And there are so many of us like in the industry trying to, push a different narrative. But it always seems to come back to the same nonsense that has always existed. But I guess, all we can keep doing, and this to move us on to our next kind of point is, what changes would you like to see? What different language would you like to be used? And how do you think we continue to move the emphasis and the focus towards healthier bodies as opposed to just like ultra fit bodies?
I guess for me, what I would think would be is like let people show up who as they are. Like, stop in the sense of like, if you have someone that's bigger that wants to work out, like they don't need to be working out to become something else. They might just want to work out to be, to want to move, to want to, I don't know, get stronger, learn something like boxing or, do spin. They don't need.
Or just for communion, like Laura was saying, just for the social element,
Like there doesn't always need to be an end goal. You don't always have to be trying to change who you are, to change what you look like. And I feel like that's still such like a heavy thing in fitness. It's like, oh, you want to work out to lose weight. You want to work out to be smaller. You want to work out to do this. And it's like, no, I want to work out to be stronger. I want to work out to be like really good at boxing. I want to work out to, do X, Y, and Z. Like it doesn't have
fun.
Yeah, have fun, make friends, like stuff like that. It doesn't always have to emphasize around your size of your body. Because that's not like, how long have we been doing that? How many women and people in general are so unhappy with that?
Right.
That's something that like we're still seeing so heavily is like size, like be smaller, like be fitter, like being fit is being like muscular and small. And it's like, no, like some people's body types are naturally bigger. And like
for sure.
Bigger, and they could be sitting at such like a low body fat percentage and just be a bigger body. Like they don't.
And that happens all the time. People will come in with a picture of someone or an idea of like someone in their head. Like, I want to look like this person. I mean, the classic male one is like, I want to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Like, the guy's 135 pounds with a 26-inch waist and broad shoulders. Like, dude, it's not going to happen. Like, what do you want me to tell you? It's not going to happen. But yeah, I think that goes on a lot. People just don't really understand that, like, we are anatomically all very different. Well, like the length of our femurs is different. Like our skeletal system is different on everybody. And you can't change your structure no matter how much body fat you lose.
That was the thing that I had to like get out of my head when I started, because I got into the process of being like, oh, like if I'm gonna be fit, I'm gonna look like this. And I had like Laura and a lot of other like my trainers at the time like really like let me know like I am not physically able to get that low or to look like that, or my body type just isn't that. And I had to retrain myself or like relearn this specific thing because I was taught something else my whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the
Bria and
classic.
sorry.
Sorry, you can go on.
Bria and I have both, you know, at various points in our fitness lives together, like hit low points where our bodies were sending us clear signals that we were too small for our body types. And we were many pounds apart and looked totally different, but like we were both experiencing really similar things of like our bodies saying, no, this is not right for us. And everybody has a different point where their body is comfortable. And I think it's especially important for women whose hormones are like so sensitive to body weight and body fat percentage to know where their healthy range is. And there certainly is like an upper point, I think, too, for hormonal health. But specifically in the fitness industry, I think people are hitting the low point pretty regularly and not acknowledging that that's what's going on because they think that they can get as small as like the next person.
Well, there's also so in a sport like CrossFit, well, and it, you know, any professional athletic sport, where in order to be competitive, you have to be at a very low body fat percentage if you truly want to be competitive. And that might be like a woman needs to be 12% body fat. Now, for certain athletes, that may be worth the trade-off because that's their career and that's what they're getting paid to do. But in no means is that a healthy habit, lifestyle, or way to be. But I think a lot of the time it's like the general gym goer will look at that athlete, look at that body type and saying, well, you know, if I'm going to be like that, then I have to, that's the body fat percentage I want to be at, without realizing this is a calculated decision, a professional decision. Like I'm going to try and win the CrossFit Games. In order to do that, I need to be at a certain body fat percentage. Or if I'm a bodybuilder on stage, I'm trying to win the Mrs. Olympia, I have to be at a certain body fat percentage. And it's worth the risk for me because it is a calculated risk to be that low of a body fat percentage and to be that unhealthy at that point, because it is unhealthy. There's nothing healthy about the woman being sub 12% body fat at all. It's a risk that they're taking in order to be financially successful at their sport. And they have to find a way to navigate that, like as they come out of the sport on the other end, like how to refine health after that. But I think a lot of the time, like the general gym goer will look at a body type like that, think that's what they have to aspire to, and make those sacrifices on their body without there being any kind of real, you know, reward for it. Like you're not, you know, it's not a professional decision. It's just a preconceived physical aesthetic thing of like, this is what I should look like because this is what people like. Therefore, I'll make these sacrifices. I'll do this damage to my body so that people think I'm athletic or whatever it is.
And I think it's so sad how easily or how willing people are, even the women that are experiencing these issues, how willing they are to just dismiss them as like, oh, this is part of like being athletic and being female is like going through these issues that like, I mean, I've been fairly vocal about what I've gone through on social media. And so a lot of people like at the Pharos community, when I was still there in person working, would like approach me, oh, hey, I'm having that issue too. Or like, you know, I haven't gotten my period in 2 years, like things like that, you know? And the general attitude is like, that's okay. Like, that's just part of it. Like, that just means you're really fit. No, that's not okay. That's a sign that something is not working, right? That there's like and not that it's necessarily an emergency and everyone should be terrified if they go through something like that, because I think it is really, really common. But, you know, that should be addressed and resolved and not dismissed as like, whatever, that's part of
the journey.
Female, you know?
Yeah, it's a, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, when you're in the industry for so long and you see it so often, it's one of those things that it becomes so common that people think it's normal, and it's not.
Right, it's not normal. It is common, but that doesn't make it normal.
That doesn't make it normal. That doesn't make it right. Yeah. What are some of the other kind of challenges or hurdles that you guys have had to overcome during your fitness journey? has there been, we talked a little bit about comments, we talked about social media. Have you guys dealt with any kind of motivational issues of like, I don't want to do this anymore, like, I don't need to do this anymore. I've kind of like, I'm burnt out by this. I kind of, I met a lot of people kind of, and I'm not sure how old you both are right now, but like in their kind of like early 30s, who kind of like, they've been through that phase of kind of like CrossFit, they've got a little bit burnt out by it, and they're kind of done. And they've lost a bit of motivation and they're just, you know, struggling to get back in. Have you guys had any of that time in your life where you're like really struggled to get back in the gym and kind of start the process again? Or have you always managed to kind of like stay close enough to it that you weren't completely exited from it?
I feel like with me, my relationship with like working out is, it still at times feels like very new, because like in the grand scheme of my life, I haven't been working out for very long, like in my whole life type thing. So it, depending on like what Laura said, like what I'm going through, like emotionally, like with my body, with my eating, like I am the other spectrum of Laura's like point. So like I come from like binge eating and emotional eating and stuff like that. And I went to, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna eat to compete or eat to do this or eat to be strong. So then I switched like one bad habit for another because I went too far. So
well,
like
also with weightlifting and strength training, it gives you a reason to eat, right? It gives you almost an excuse to eat. It's like, well, if I want to lift heavier, I'm going to have to get bigger. So it, like, on the flip side of things, that could be another dangerous path.
yes, because you're like trading one obsession for another. So it's like one, like, oh, like I'm gonna like hide to eat, to like, oh, I can eat whatever I want, or like, oh, I can eat so restrictive and just like tell people I'm training, or you know, like it looks like I'm doing good because I'm losing weight, but actually like I'm dying inside, or you know, like random things like that. So like my motivation with like working out and stuff like that depends on like where I am with myself. So if if I feel like I'm falling off, I'm gonna fall off working out and you like won't see me. And like I'll like there'll be something going on and I have to, for me, I have to like balance myself out to like come back, or to like feel like my main objective, like being on both spectrums of like extreme like restrictive eating and like extreme like binge eating and emotional eating, is like I have to find a balance in between the two. And like no matter what, that's my main objective. My main objective is like working out too. I went from an extreme like 2 hours a day, I hurt my back, but I'm still gonna train because I have this thing coming up, like that type of stuff, to like I don't do anything because I hate everything. You know, like it's me
Finding
finding
balance.
that. Hmm?
Well, Laura, did you you know, after the pregnancies and having and stuff, did you find it hard to get back into fitness after that, or could you not wait to get back in?
I couldn't wait, but it still was hard in the sense that I had to not start from zero, but you know, start from a much lower point than I was used to. And after like everything I went through with eating disorder stuff, like I wanted to be really careful to not go down that path again. I think especially like during my first pregnancy, I all of a sudden had like a newfound like sense of urgency to actually be healthy, because like my body was being shared by another person. And
Sure.
and certainly like I feel that pressure now having kids as well, of just like I have a more of a responsibility now to like make sure that I am not doing things that are potentially leading me down an unhealthy path. And so and no, and once you've been there, it's really hard to find exactly where that line is for yourself, of like, am I doing this because it feels so good and it's fun and I love doing this, or am I doing this like subconsciously or like in the back of my mind and not really admitting it to myself because I like want to get skinny again or something, you know? And I think I have found that balance, but like that was more of my struggle, was pulling the reins back a little bit when I wanted to like go all in right away and like lose the weight and like have my bounce back and like all of that bullshit around pregnancy, you know. Like I had to like really consciously not go down that path and like find other reasons to work out, which I for sure have. Like, I mean, fun. That is my first and foremost, like why I do it. I love doing it. It's fun. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I always say that
like, I'm not doing ring dip.
the best program is the one that you enjoy the most.
Yeah,
because it's the only one you're going to stick with.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's talk just briefly. We've mentioned nutrition a little bit, but you know, you're both in a pretty like balanced place right now. How do you deal with nutrition? How have you managed to find balance with nutrition? Laura, you mentioned like you used to do paleo challenges and that kind of stuff, and that can cause problems. Do you guys cook a lot? Do you get any meal prep service? How do you deal with like getting the right nutrition on a daily basis?
So for me, if I'm working, I have no control over what I'm eating. So on set, like you get breakfast, you get lunch, and then like if depending on where I'm at, I either have to like Postmates or like come home and make. Usually I will make something, but like those are my options. But I feel like I try to like be conscious. I guess I'm still like on my, like I'm not like 100% like everything's great. Like I'm still learning through like what's good for me eating wise, what's not good for me. Like I feel like it's just going to be like a lifetime thing.
Just making like good conscious decisions, whatever the, you know, whatever the situation is and what's available to you, just making good conscious decisions with those options.
Right. And like listening to myself, like, have I been like eating like crazy? Do I feel weird? Do I feel like, how do I feel? Is like a big thing for me that I'm trying to like really instill in myself is like, am I eating like, is what I'm eating like not doing it for me? Or like, do I feel sluggish? Do I feel strong?
Yeah, a lot of people forget that every food and every drink you put in your body is a drug that your body has a reaction to. They just think of it as calories. It's not just calories. Like your body has a reaction to everything you consume, and it leads you to feel a certain way. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast last week by Michael Pollan, and he was talking about caffeine. And obviously, caffeine is like the most used drug in the world right now. And he took 3 months off caffeine. It was a complete mess. And then he went back on, and he said the first cup of coffee was like, it was like doing cocaine. He was like, had a huge like euphoric rush from something that we drink all day, every day, and get so used to that we forget, like we're having chemical reactions in our bodies all the time from everything that we're consuming. And it's like I said, it's not just calories. It leads us to feel a certain way, whether it be energized, whether it be sluggish, whether it be bloated, whether it be miserable, whether we have digestive issues, all those kind of things. So it's really important to pay attention to what we consume, not just in terms of like how many calories are in it, but how does it really make us feel? Like I love a donut. Like I love how it tastes. But God, it makes me feel terrible. Like 15 minutes, I just feel terrible because I have
donut like in the afternoon after I've had like balanced meals a few times throughout the day, and like my blood sugar is good for the day. But if I have it first thing in the morning, I'm a mess. Like I'm shaking all day.
like I find it gives me like I just get in a bad mood. Like I'm irritable because I don't have much sugar really in my diet at all. And then when I have that amount, like really quickly, for some reason, it just makes me like irritable and moody and terrible. So yeah, it's a really interesting point that you made there about recognizing the way that food makes you feel, as opposed to just thinking about it as calories. So my next thing I want to move on to, and I kind of ask this of everybody, is about purpose. And I think specifically for you both, this is a really good question because, like I said before, you both have really, really different lives, but have a very kind of similar, you know, viewpoint and story to tell. But if you were to tell anybody, if you were to describe to anybody your purpose, not your purpose in your job or anything like that, but like your purpose on the planet, like if you were to say, I'm Laura Hood, and my purpose on this planet is to blank, what would it be? I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that.
Oh, you really
Big question.
Yeah, everybody gets flummoxed by this question, but it's a good one because it makes you think about, okay, you know, it would be easy to say, oh, I want to be a really successful model, but that's not really what your purpose on the planet. Like, how do you want to affect people? How do you want to be, you know, what do you want your tombstone to say?
I feel like, well, obviously my kids, like I feel like as a parent, that just creates a sense of purpose that like, of course, that is a
Just to
major
raise
driving
healthy,
factor.
good kids.
Yeah. But personally, like beyond that, I think that like the thing that motivates me is that I want to create a better world, a better environment in like a lot of different areas, like fitness and professionally and in like parenthood for women. Like that is something that is on my mind pretty much all day. Like that is what motivates me to like want to hustle so hard to continue to have a career. Not that every woman should want to do that by any means, but like there are so many obstacles for mothers especially, and just women in so many different areas of our society. Like that is something that's really important to me in my own small ways that I can contribute to like breaking down those barriers and finding ways to like, you know, be able to like look the way you want in the fitness industry and have that be okay, and like be a working mom and juggle all the things that come with that and like have that be okay. And I don't know that I'm doing a whole lot in terms of like
No, you are. I
policy
mean,
or social change, but
yeah.
you know, in my own small way, like that's like a big driving purpose for me.
Yeah, for those of you listening that don't know, Laura deals with all our HR, all our kind of employment. She deals with a million different issues on a daily basis and makes a huge difference to the club. And I'm always reminded that a lot of people just don't see how much Laura does at the club because she's not physically at the club. But just know that, you know, the club does not function without Laura. It kind of like, it would have failed a long time ago without her. So you should all know that. Brie, your situation is interesting because I'm sure there's a lot of women out there who look up to you and who are, you know, inspired by you and your story. Does that, I mean, we'll talk about you can talk about whatever you want to in terms of your purpose, but does that heighten your sense of purpose as kind of like a role model?
Well, I guess in like my small way as well, like as like this isn't something that I ever like wanted to do. This isn't something I ever thought that I was gonna do. Like, and now to like be here and to have learned about like the plus curve community and like how much like this like group of people are really just like trying to be seen and trying to be heard and trying to like, you know, like have like a space or like a place to be now, like in like in I guess in my small like visibility of like, you know, people like seeing me and like the messages I get from women and like small girls and everything. it it's it's a feeling that I almost like can't describe, just like because in actuality, like being in front of people all the time as someone that was like very shy and like, you know, like as it it can be like hard, but then when you like see that like, you know, like 16-year-old girls are like, oh, I can go to the beach now. I feel like I can go to the beach because like you like posted this, or because I see like you're happy at the beach, or like you're out with your friends. Like I can be out with my friends at the beach too, or I can wear this, or I can go to the gym, or I'm gonna try to do this, or it's like those like even touching those small amount of people with like something that I do or something that I'm doing, or you know, on this journey that I'm on, it's like it is undescribable, because I was the girl that didn't go to the beach. I was the girl that didn't go to like the like I don't know, fairs, because you know all these things. And it's like just knowing that like this like these women and this community is like now doing things, and it's like myself and everyone else that's like on this like that are like, I guess, in front of people now, um are like touching anything that is like amazing. And
It's
it's
amazing. And I often think, the best we can hope for in whatever we do in this world is to positively affect as many people as possible. And I think the fact that you're in this very special situation, and you can inspire such a specific, portion of the community that needs someone that often do feel like alone or misunderstood, or that they're not going to get the opportunities that other girls might get when they see you doing what you're doing and being so happy and being so successful and that kind of stuff. I think it's a really incredible position to be in. I think you should be very proud of everything that you're doing. So bravo. Keep doing it. Girls, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I know you're both crazily busy, but it's great to have this kind of stuff on the podcast. It's great to have your stories and your contributions. And like I said, I hope you just both continue to do what you're doing. It's great to have you both at the club. Obviously, Laura, as a vital kind of, I don't even want to say the term employee, because you're so much more than an employee. And Brie as one of our like OG members and major inspirations at the club. I hope you're both with us for a very long time, because you make us a lot better. So thanks for taking the time, and thanks for listening in today, guys. As always, we are open 1316 Glendale Boulevard. Come see us. We have multiple programs available. We open from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. in the evening, and we would love to see you. You can also follow us on Instagram at Pharos Echo Park, and you can find this podcast on any good podcast channels. We will be back with you very shortly next week, and until then, take care. See you guys. Bye.